How's it going, guys? Right now you're watching some of the God of War footage in the background, and this time around I've got something to talk about, and especially it's taken from the article, and the links are down in the description if you want to read it for yourself. So it's by the title of the God of War is a great example of the difference between Sony and Microsoft. Almost a year ago, Xbox Phil Spencer was doing the media rounds talking about the future of Xbox. The problem, the business model for game development was changing. Single-player, story-first adventures were just as important, but it was harder to justify founding them. In part, that's what Xbox Game Pass was designed to help against. By having a subscription offering, users wouldn't have to pay upfront for a title. In turn, Microsoft could better fund not just for the next Forza or the Sea of Thieves, but the next grand single-player story. It makes sense in a lot of ways, especially since it's not original. HBO and Netflix have done it for years. Spencer even specifically mentioned wanting to create a Netflix for games. But game development takes a while. And 1 year on from the release of the Xbox Game Pass, the grand subscription model is still mostly filled with the smaller indies, remakes, and the odd blockbusters Rise of a Tomb Raider, which launched on the Xbox 3 years ago. Sea of Thieves and the Halo War games, the underwhelming Recore, and the acquired taste of the Gears of War 4. None of these are killer apps and sort of games that moves consoles. Sea of Thieves did provide plenty of users a chance to sign up for a monthly subscription instead of paying $70 upfront, which is great for those who are sticking through that dearth of the content. On the other hand, there's Sony. They're still walking down a very traditional path, making bets on new hardware and PSVR, and continuing to fund huge single-player experiences that most players only play through once or twice. Games that don't have microtransactions or models that allow for the fast and easy production of the DLC. From the business perspective, Sony's position seems incredibly risky. Rebooting something like a God of War was always a mammoth risk, given what the series was built around. Kratos was a difficult character to like. The solution to all his promise often creates more issues than they solve, with his just unbearable rage resulting in the death of his family, his father, Athena, and the countless deaths of who knows how much many after the entirety of Greece gets flooded. On top of that, quick time events aren't everyone's cup of tea. God of War 3 was a rare instance for good QTEs, but it's not a model that gamers would have appreciated in 2018. And can you imagine how the internet would have reacted today to locked camera angles? So any awful lot had to be thrown out. The end result, as Chris wrote in his review, was a game that ended up being a bit of everything. Part Last of Us, part Dark Souls dodging, part Witcher. The blend of ideas works, even if many of them come from the other franchises. But the bigger theme at play here is that fact that Sony are founding these large open world, story-driven games at all. And it's not like these some kind of aberrations. Even if you discount Naughty Dogs as a one-off, special case that any publisher would love to have. There's still plenty of investments into narrative experiences elsewhere. Detroit Become Human lands next month. The next Spider-Man looks fantastic so far. Kiryu's story wrapped up recently with Yakuza 6. Even with Sega, released the whole game for free by accident. And given the response to Crash Bandicoot re-release last year, it's hard to imagine there won't be a similar level to interest in the Spyro trilogy. Sony doesn't directly fund all of these games, of course, but 5 years on from the launch of the current generation, even after mid-generation refresh, it's fascinating to see how strategies of the two companies are playing out. Sony is still taking bets, massive bets, on grand adventures that might not pan out. Crackdown 3 and Sea of Thieves aren't cheap to make either, and there are more leeway too. They can have smaller player base and be okay financially, but not only thanks to the microtransactions, but because they're a platform for players to build their own content. entertaining themselves outside of the whims of the developer. Part of the problem, of course, is that Microsoft has been playing catch-up since 2013. Success begs success. When you have more money to play with, you've got more leeway to bet on things that might not work out. And it's easy to forget just how many first-party studios Sony actually has. Ignoring the XD department that collaborates with the developers, Sony has teams like Guerrilla Games, Palafi Digital, Naughty Dog, Santa Monica, San Diego, Sucker Punch. Their London team, their PSVR studio in England, Media Molecule also in UK, their Japan studio Band makes the days of gone. Microsoft has Mojang, Rare, 343 and their effort on Halo, their Coalition and the Gears franchise, and there's Turn 10 and the Forza games. It's not even close to a level playing field. So when you see comments decrying on a lack of exclusivity on the Xbox compared to the PS4, it's really ignoring the reality. The Xbox can't have more exclusives than the PS4. There's just not enough developers. That's not a huge problem though, because nobody has enough time in a day to play every new game. And Microsoft's strategy seems to hell of a lot smarter when you look 3 to 4 or 5 years down the road. An Xbox owner might only ever have to buy one game a year, simply paying $10.95 a month to access anything else they feel like they're paying on a whim. But what matters for the gamers right now are those 1 or 2 games that make you stop and go, shit, I need to play this. And every now and again, that game happens to be a multiplayer blockbuster. Something all your friends are playing. PUBG and Fortnite will fill that void right now. Halo was a big draw card for that very same reason. By a lot of time, those games are grand adventures, stories and worlds that you can lose yourself in. They're experiences you haven't had before. They're not experiences you create yourself. They're someone else's world, something that pulls you out of the monotony of the day-to-day life. And despite the increasingly difficult leap of faith required, Sony has continued pushing those games forward. Kratos redeeming himself as a father, Aloy redeeming herself to her tribe, Drake rebuilding his relationship with Sam, and saving his relationship with Elena. Games you might only play once, but you'll remember for years, if not forever. Time and time again, that's what people buy a console for. And while Microsoft's strategy makes perfect sense, consoles aren't always a sensible purchase. It's often emotional, impulsive, driven by the need to follow a hero, a character you want to believe in, a journey. Journeys like God of War. Anyway, that really was a very, very well done article. I'm quite impressed. Alex Walker has written down this article. I'm definitely going to be following him and seeing what he has more to offer. Anyway, obviously there's no hate going towards Xbox, there's no hate going toward PlayStation. Obviously I put a lot of points, good points on a PlayStation more than Xbox. But either way, it's very nice to understand on both of the perspectives why there isn't much exclusivities on the Microsoft as there is on the Sony. That's the real deal, because there are just not enough developers, that's for sure. And good developers I'm talking about, not the indie title ones. That's all I got for today. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Check out my Twitter, follow down there. Let's have a chat out there as well. And yeah, have a good one, guys. Really, really appreciate you sticking around on my channel and my videos. And have a good one. Just again, see you guys later.